Alright, Walking Dead fans, this is going to be our review of Not Tomorrow Yet, Season 6, Episode 12. There's 4 episodes left of this season, and there's a lot to cover. Tonight's episode was pretty awesome in my estimation. So we're going to kind of go over what happened in the episode, and then some thoughts that we had. We had some really interesting ideas about where the show could go. It would be pretty awesome that Beth came up with here.
So, the show opened, and the first thing out of Josh's mouth was...
It looks like Carol's getting ready to go on a date. That was the first thing I thought. And
then she baked pink cookies and took them to a guy and made out with him. So...
She did end up kind of going on a date, but it was interesting to see this, Susie Homemaker Carol again. It kind of looked like she's beginning to show a little bit of regret about things, with the notebook that she started to have, she's obviously had it for a while now, or at least a little while. It has a list of everyone that she feels responsible for, at least.
That's what I think, yeah. I don't think it's a kill list. I think it's everyone she feels responsible for, and we'll get to that with the initials because that comes later in the episode. But the delivery of the cookie to Sam.
Right, so
the first thing we both thought.
She delivers these cookies to everyone, and so she leaves this cookie there on Sam's gravesite, and it's like, oh, that's going to be another,
ant cookie.
So we had these cookies before. This is kind of a throwback to when Sam was sort of catatonic in his room, and the episode sort of opened with a cookie on a plate with ants attacking it, and that's obviously where this, that's where it went in my head. Anyway.
Oh yeah, straight to it, ant cookie.
So, but in addition to that, also while she's talking to Morgan, and as she's talking to Morgan, it kind of seems like maybe the reason why she doesn't want to tell everybody about what happened with Morgan is because she kind of understands where he's coming from, a little bit. Like, she doesn't want to be responsible for getting him thrown out, adding anything to it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like we're kind of losing that hard edge that Carol has had since she's been in civilization for a while.
I think she understands the regret he has for the lives he's taken, and so now she's understanding why he wouldn't take his life.
Fair. And then, of course, we have the situation with Tobin, which is going to throw a lot of people off with...
Because Daryl...
They were hoping for a Daryl ship there, the Daryl-Carol thing, which I didn't ever really see as anything more than a friendship personally, but I guess a lot of other people were really hoping.
Kind of bonded over Sophia, I thought.
Right. So then, of course, they talk about their plan. They go through, and it's a very hastily thrown together, very shoddy sort of plan. They do no reconnaissance at all. They take this one guy and they're like, well, you've been inside, so you know what's up.
And then they just walk in and murder everyone they can find.
And I want to kind of step back for just a second, and they talks about where Rick's like, oh, well, they want Gregory's head, so we're going to bring it to him. And there for half a second I thought that,
they're going to go get Gregory's head? Yeah, this is going to be interesting.
I thought that maybe Rick and Maggie had a conversation, and Rick was like, okay, well, we're just going to go get his head and take it to him then. But obviously this...
Thank goodness he was craftier than that. This was a much more diplomatic approach.
Right.
Okay, so then we get to Mother Dick. Because, oh my God, was Abraham Mother Dick tonight. Yeah, that was the biggest dump ever. To me it seemed like sort of the coward's way out at first. He's just gonna walk in, pack his stuff, and then walk out, without even really giving any kind of explanation. And be as completely rude about it as possible.
Right. And then
fire Dingleberry's brown. It's just the way shit is.
And then when
that's a very write-off, I'm just done with you, and that's not what it was. I
thought that you were the last woman on Earth, but you're not. I mean, even if that's true, you really didn't have to say that, Abraham. You could have thrown out some other kind of...
So, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the kid who brings home the wounded bird that won't fly away once its wing heals. So he has to throw the bird and say, go away, I don't want you. I think that was Abraham making her go away. making her hate him so that she wouldn't miss him.
Right. And so as we're watching through a little bit more, I kind of have another note here that says that I'm always worried for the moral center of the show. You know, of course,
Dale, Herschel, we have a bad trend.
Right. And so now, of course, Glenn has been filling that role, and everybody expects Glenn to bite it, you know,
right.
here soon,
or
because
Morgan, because of the I won't kill because every life is a possibility.
Right. Well, some of the people that have read the comic, of course, they have a thing that they're expecting to happen. I won't say too much, but obviously.
And then Gabriel is kind of coming around as a protector and a moral center because he's still the confessor.
Right.
Tara confessed to him.
Sure.
And then there's Aaron.
Right. And so, yeah, the Aaron thing. Well, I think we might have to come back to that, but I think that...
I think he's more of a sacrificial lamb, though. I think he feels he needs to martyr himself.
And I think that's the way it's looking with Aaron. I think that maybe they might let Glenn off. He might get a reprieve because we've had these close calls with Glenn, and especially with the situation at the end of this episode, I think that they, depending on how that resolves itself, you know, that may throw a monkey wrench into my theory here, but I think that it's possible that Aaron might be the one that, you know, sort of takes Glenn's place for the comic book reveal, you know, the big thing that everyone's been expecting for a while.
And I think if we lose a first season character, I think they've now written it to be Carol.
And I could understand that too at this situation, that Carol is also a possibility. And of course Carol...
especially since she's been kind of forced back into that mother role by Tobin and the situation and going back to being Susie Homemaker, having Maggie be the one that she's with, she has to sacrifice herself for Maggie because Maggie is going to be a mother.
Right, and that definitely makes sense.
And she has to protect that child
and
above anything else. And that's why she said anybody but her.
Right. And next we roll up on the Savior's compound here, and it's like, what are they doing? Looking for aliens? And of course, then on Talking Dead, they mentioned that
the private owner had bought it to look for extraterrestrial life, so the base had actually been used to look for aliens. So that was hilarious. Fantastic call.
Once we get inside, we end up with Glenn's first kill, which obviously in here you're seeing a great example of the fact that it's the first kill is the hardest, and everything after that was just so much easier. The first one, you know, he struggled so much with, and then
he almost cried. And the second one, he just took a deep breath and went to it because he had to.
Right, and went over there and took the place of Heath, and sort of saved him from having
to do that hand to hand, face to face.
Right.
Yeah.
Which again, you know, might not necessarily bode well for him as far as being the moral center again, like we were just talking about.
True.
But then after that, you know, they just
but then
mow
they
down
pan up to the wall of Polaroids. I counted 20, where everybody's faces were smashed in, and we're just kind of all assuming that that's Lucille.
And these are not good people, so I mean, Glenn shouldn't necessarily be, you know, have this great amount of remorse when he's looking at these people and what they've done.
And I think a lot of people are forgetting that Alexandria has a new motto. They've posted it outside the gate. It says, "Mercy for the lost, vengeance for the plunderers." And that's what they delivered. Because that's what Negan's people are. They've been told that's what Negan's people are. They've seen that's what Negan's people are because Daryl has encountered them personally, and they were told, your shit belongs to Negan. They are plunderers. They left them in itty-bitty bits and puddles.
Right. Well, then we have Jesus and Tara and Gabriel in the car.
Right.
All talking, and it's...
the difference between this versus the governor.
Right. How is it different for her now? Why did she, you know, why did she go in and feel that she could kill people no problem this time, whereas...
So Tara was in a very similar situation before when the governor gave the big speech about we have to kill them before they kill us because they're bad people. And Jesus asked what the difference is this time.
And so this time she knows what she's fighting for.
Denise.
Right.
She has a reason. Yay, love.
So then the next thing that I just, obviously you had the scuffle and, geez, Sasha, you had one job. You already stabbed the guy. You can't stop him
Just
from
stop
pulling
him
the
from
fire
pulling the fire alarm.
Right, exactly. But then once this goes sideways, ideally they should have had a plan here. And the plan in this situation, in my mind, should have been
regroup as close to the armory as possible and then go back and figure out what else is going on.
Fall back and regroup. I mean, they had the armory and that was their main objective at this point, and so they picked up the armory and some good supplies. They've supposedly pretty much taken everybody, most everybody out at this point, but then of course
we find that one guy who was hiding somewhere with a radio and contacted people outside.
Right. So obviously now the people outside know what's going on. They know the situation. They know that they've killed off pretty much everybody inside.
And they came across Maggie and Carol in the dark, and I think this goes back to anybody but her. Carol could have sacrificed anyone but Maggie to save herself in that situation. If she'd been ambushed with anyone else, she probably would have gotten away and probably would have killed them all.
Right.
Because she could have easily sacrificed that other person if it had been anyone else, I think.
Also, well, if she just would have let Maggie go, or if she just would have gone with Maggie, then they wouldn't have been standing there in order
to get captured in the first place.
Right. But I guess we'll see how that plays out next week by looking at the preview.
Also, those look like some pretty high-power walkie-talkies. I'm wondering how far the range is on that, and I'm wondering how far away the next station is, because that could come back to bite our group in the butt. If they've already radioed ahead to others in Negan's group, they could be going after Alexandria already. They could be going back to Hilltop because they know that these people obviously came from there. So we'll have to see how that plays out.
So what is this place exactly? I mean, I don't think that it's Negan's stronghold. I think that it's my idea.
It's like a warehouse or a relay point.
Right. I think they kind of probably set up several relay points outside of the towns that they have in their system, like under their control, and so that way nobody sort of goes back to the main thing, and that keeps sort of a layer of protection there between the inner circle and Negan, as if it were.
Right.
So I guess we'll be seeing how that plays out as well.
And so then we get to my interesting idea. Out of everybody in Alexandria, who can we probably most easily live without? And this is never going to happen because the show is entirely Rick-centric. But I say this version of Rick.
If they really wanted to do something different and exciting and sort of get everybody talking and really prove that nobody is safe,
Maggie has taken over diplomatic relations with outliers. So she's taken over as the face of their community.
Right. Michonne has stepped up and, sort of being a
for
family for Carl and
Judith.
In addition to that, she has, sort of become, deputy sheriff in town, so she could easily sort of step up into that role as well if they were to decide that, now is the time to let, sort of really go a different direction than the comic. And that would really...
Right.
For everybody that sort of, quibbles about the comics, and the TV show and how there's a lot of parallels, but there's some differences.
This would take a hard left.
Yeah.
It would make the show its own thing.
Yes.
It would completely separate it from the storyline of the comic and make it unique. Because I think that there are enough people in Alexandria that if Negan doesn't wipe them out, they can handle it without Rick.
Right. Other people that are on the kill list in my mind, we have Aaron, who, again, I kind of alluded to before. I think that there's a good chance for that, sort of him taking the place of Glenn as a sacrificial lamb, because he feels responsible for things. I mean, I love... what's his name?
Ross Marquand.
Yeah, he was amazing. I loved seeing him on Walking Dead, and then At Midnight the other day. His
impressions are fantastic. I mean, he's just... Oh! Okay, anyway.
But I think that... I said it on Twitter. I think that he's toast before the end of the season. I could be wrong, but that's sort of...
And again, I think the Maggie and Carol thing is going to play out, that if it's a choice between herself or Maggie, Carol's going to sacrifice herself. She's going to do the mom is martyr thing, and I hate that, but... if it's between the two of them, I think that's the way the show has to go, because after losing Lori in childbirth, I don't think they could take another mother out like that. I just
Okay,
don't
so
think they could.
then the last one is sort of the situation with Sasha and Abraham, Eugene, and Rosita. I mean, I see this as developing as a situation between all four of them personally.
Yeah.
I think that Eugene has sort of stepped up and, sort of become a man, and I think that, since he's been the next person that spent the longest time with Rosita, that he's the natural person to sort of come in and try to comfort her from, and be a rebound, sort of, maybe even potentially.
I think that he's way more interested in more than rebound, and that he would try to go the long haul with her.
But I think that
But I think she would
this
feel like she was settling until now, because he really did, I think, step up in her eyes.
I think
so
until this situation resolves itself,
they're all safe.
I think they're all safe now.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that will happen in the 4 episodes before the end of the season or not, but I guess we'll have to see how that goes.
So yeah, and again, I'd say Glenn is probably not very likely, just because, like they said on the show tonight, he's had so many close calls.
Right.
They can't keep snatching us back from the brink like this. We're really going to have heart attacks if they do this to us with Glenn again. Like, honestly.
Right. And they've done it with other characters where, I mean, even Carol was supposed to have died supposedly after season 3, and so
yeah.
It would make sense that, she is expendable at this point as well, especially after the sort of, catharsis or whatever she has going on right now.
Yep, and with the townspeople stepping up, these characters are less necessary to maintain the group.
Well, that was a lot of fun, so I hope that everybody enjoyed our analysis of the show tonight, and